Hello and welcome to another Sprues and Brews review. Today we are having a look at the Imperial Armour Compendium for Warhammer 40,000. Now this is up for pre-order today and contains all the rules for, I think nearly every currently available Forge World model with the new 9th edition rules. Back at the start of 8th edition we saw the small indexes come out, gathering together all the Forge World rules into different books. For this edition, they've put it into one big, chunky, over 200 page tome filled with all the details of the unit, which is really cool. Now I play Death Korps of Krieg, I have some Titans, so yeah, I'm super looking forward to seeing what is in this book. So let's crack on and have a nosy inside to see what we get. So as you can see from the contents page, they have managed to squeeze a load in the 224 pages of this book. All sorts of stuff. We've got pretty much, like I say, it's pretty much every model that's still in production. I know a lot of people have been disappointed that a lot of discontinued models have been dropped from the book. It's a shame, but I don't think anyone should have really been too surprised by that. Essentially, this is covering all the models that you currently can buy from Forge World. Now I know there are a couple of controversial exceptions to that, such as the Gorgon for the Death Korps of Krieg isn't in this book, but you can still buy it from the Forge World website. So I know there's a couple of disappointed people in the profiles that don't have rules. However, Forge World have said that every model will get a Legends profile, which is usable in friendly games, crusade games, non-tournament match play games. Obviously that's going to disappoint some people that a lot of tournaments don't allow Legends units, which is a shame. However, they have managed to cram an awful lot in here. So yeah, we'll take a quick look through. We're also going to have a kind of companion post to this over on the website where I will go through some of the individual units and compare some of the changes that we see compared to the previous iteration of the rules. So yeah, essentially the book is broken down into 4 parts. The Adeptus Astartes, the forces of the Imperium, the forces of Chaos, and the forces of Xenos. So following the same kind of pattern as those previous index books that we got last edition, but all in one big hardback, very pretty book. And yeah, a lot of the old Imperial Armour artwork we see in here as well, which is really cool. So first of all, we get to the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines. We get a recap on some of the rules, such as how the chapter keyword works. Because it's worth pointing out, we actually get a couple of new chapters in here with rules, which is pretty cool. For the more niche armies out there, such as the Space Sharks, of course. And yeah, so if we go through the section, we will see we have got rules for the Red Scorpions, the Minotaurs, the Blood Ravens, the Astral Claws, and the Carnodons. So, for a lot of these, it gives kind of recommended chapter tactics for them. So rather than having their own kind of bespoke ones, because a lot of these are successors of some of them unknown origin, but it gives you some pointers into what kind of chapter they heralded from, and yeah, some suggested chapter tactics in order to make your chapter like how they operate in the lore, which is pretty cool to see. So yeah, I am a fan of the old Space Sharks, so I am interested in having a nosy at how they work out. But good to see these other chapters supported. I know a lot of these have had a lot of Forge World love over the years, hence them being in this book, which is really cool. And speaking of those chapters, we also get characters for them as well. So again, we've seen these in previous Imperial Armour books, but it's good to collect them together so you can use these characters with the new rules and the new edition of the game, which is really cool to see. And yeah, quite a selection of different Astartes characters we get there, which is really cool. So on to the actual profiles now. There's a lot of profiles on this book, so we'll have a quick flick through a lot of them. Probably be giving more attention to the units I'm more familiar with, like the Death Korps of Krieg and the Necron units. Like I say, over on the website, I'm going to do a full kind of comparison to the previous ones that we've got. But there's a lot of units that people have loved over the years, like the Relic Contemptors and the Leviathan Dreadnoughts, getting new profiles. And it looks like a lot of them get a lot of the rules that the new units from the Space Marine book has, which is really cool. As a fan of White Scars, I'm glad the Javelin attack speed is in there as well, which is really cool. So yeah, lots and lots of units in here. Some really fun stuff. A lot of the kind of Heresy era tanks are in here as well. So I know a lot of people love the models, but yeah, one of the kind of stumbling blocks for Forge World has always been having the up-to-date official rules. So yeah, it's good to see these all in here. Like the Termite being a transport option is really cool. I do quite like the thought of having some Space Marine units drilling up in a big mining drill. I think that'd be really cool. So yeah, lots of love to the Space Marines in here. Obviously they've got a lot of models available from Forge World, so it's good to see all these represented in the book. We also have the Astartes, the big new Super Heavy, which is a really nice model. So yeah, 35 power. A lot of these Super Heavies are going to be a bit on the expensive side, but it will be fun to have some big games of 40k with these. Sadly, the Mastodon still can't carry Primaris, which is a shame. The Thunderhawk, however, can. Now, I'm not sure if that was always the case, but yeah, there's a transport for your Primaris Marines nowadays. So yeah, and the same with the Stormbird as well, can also carry Primaris. And bikes as well, which is interesting. So yeah, we get a breakdown of all the points values for those Space Marine units. Again, going to touch more on the actual points changes in the article over on the website. This is more kind of a glance through the different profiles and all the kind of rules and stuff. So yeah, the Grey Knights also get called out with their own little section. A couple of units that they've got, such as the Land Raider Banisher and a Grey Knights variant of the Thunderhawk gunship. So interesting that they get a unique keyword on that. Obviously it calls out Grey Knights infantry models. Interestingly, it doesn't say you can't take Primaris. Obviously Grey Knights at the minute don't have any. It's interesting to see what if they do get some Primaris variants when they get a new book. So yeah, I'm interested to see that. And then we get into the bit that I was really excited about this book. I have a big Death Korps of Krieg army, and yeah, one of the things they've struggled from is, from a rules point of view, is the fact that they weren't really a codex supplement. They were more a kind of Astra Militarum with a few different rules. So it looks like in this book they are pretty much a new regimental doctrine variant. So you take the core Astra Militarum book as your core Krieg list. So the basic infantry squad profile replaces the Death Korps of Krieg profile, which is a little bit of a shame because the Krieg did used to have better weapon skill than your standard guardsmen. From a rules perspective, I do think that makes sense, because inevitably we are going to get a new Astra Militarum book before long, and yeah, by doing it this way, it kind of future-proofs the Death Korps of Krieg, yeah, ready for the inevitable drop of that book. Unfortunately, a lot of the old discontinued models have been culled from this book, which is a shame, but a lot of them haven't been available for a long time, like the Grenadiers and the Centaur Carrier. They are nice models, but we haven't been able to get them for a long time, so it's not a massive surprise that they're not in here. Do understand that's frustrating to anyone who has got a big Krieg army with those units in it. But yeah, by having the Krieg just being a variant of the Astra Militarum gives you all of the unit options that you had in the Codex, plus all of the variant Forge World kits that you can get here. So yeah, that's pretty tasty. The Krieg also get a new Cult of Sacrifice doctrine. Now, arguably, it's not quite as good as the old one. Previously, they ignored models killed by shooting for the purposes of battle shock. Now, instead, they ignore modifiers for combat attrition. So previously, Krieg were really good in an objective game because you had to kill them to a man with shooting to make him run away. where now they can still run away, there's no modifier anymore, so arguably makes them a little bit weaker in that regard. However, let's not forget they are now the same points as any other guardsmen, so there's pros and cons. Personally, I really like the old one. I thought that was suitably fitting for them because they weren't running anywhere. They were dying to a man for the Emperor, as every good Kriegsman should. The second half of the rule is pretty good as well. If ever a character or vehicle is destroyed, you roll a d6 on a 4+, they get to make an attack with one of their guns. So for all your mortars or your tanks, that's pretty good. 50-50 chance of being able to fire a Colossus Bombard or something before they've been killed is it's pretty good, and I quite like that. Kind of represents them even in their dying breath firing to take down the enemies of the Emperor. So yeah, pretty cool. We then get a nice double page spread giving us all the lore about the Death Korps of Krieg. Obviously over the years I've picked up the various Imperial Armour books, the Siege of Rax, but this is a nice little introduction to the Kriegsmen for anybody who hasn't maybe played that regiment before. And yeah, they are gorgeous models, which really sold it to me for the army. And yeah, we've got some new revised rules for them. So previously, the Death Korps kind of had their own orders, when now they just have access to the ones that the Astra Militarum book, which is a really good change in my book. It also means that you can give them the relics and command traits and all the kind of stuff that you'd get in the Astra Militarum book, and presumably all the awesome new stuff we're going to get when they do get a new codex as well, which is really, really nice to see. The named character has been dropped. He is legend now, but yeah, you can still use the model as a normal marshal, which is good. The kind of the field officer, I imagine you'd probably just use a one of the other HQ choices out of the Astra Militarum book to represent. So shame he hasn't got a rule profile anymore, but let's face it, there's not a great deal in difference to how they operate to the standard Astra Militarum units. Death Rider squadron commanders and command squadrons still exist as a unit, so you can still take your HQ Death Riders. Interestingly, the command squad is fast rather than elite, so if you are struggling for those elite choice slots, yeah, your command squadron for the Death Riders is actually fast, which is interesting. Really good to see those included, because there was again, there's no specific model for that command squad and commander. Just uses the normal Death Rider kit. So yeah, good to see that they're still in there and gives you a few different HQ options. Bearing in mind, you can also take tank commanders and stuff now for the Death Korps of Krieg, which is pretty fun. Combat engineers have had quite an overhaul. The shotguns don't have they used to be really good against infantry, but on a 1 you ended up killing yourself. That doesn't exist anymore. They're pretty much a standard strength 4 shotgun, albeit with 3 shots, so a squad of 10 of them pumping out 30 shots is pretty good. Mole launcher is still pretty good. It doesn't need line of sight. Portable kind of mortar really, which is handy. And then the gas bombs are still really, really good. They wound on a 2+. They are AP -2. 1 damage each. Yeah, he used the Grenadier stratagem out of the Astra Militarum book, and they will cause an absolute world of pain. Interestingly, these guys can also set up anywhere on the battlefield outside of 9 inches of enemy models, even if they don't have the siege drill with them. So it's cool to see that kind of baked into their profile now. As we'll see later, they can take a siege drill as a dedicated transport, which is really cool because I love the siege drill model. And yeah, any excuse to get it into my army is yeah, it's got to be done. Death Riders, I've had a bit of a rejig. Their augmented mount rules finally just gives them a base 5+ wound shrug, rather than it being against attacks of strength 4 or less, which was always one of my bugbears because nobody was shooting that low strength weapons at them. It never really went off. So yeah, the fact that they can now tank a las cannon shot on a 5+ is pretty cool. The hunting lancers, again, devastating on the charge. They get extra damage on the charge now, which I don't think they always got. It was just the additional AP on there. So yeah, pretty good. I like the Death Riders. I can see a lot of these being used in Death Korps armies. So yeah, Death Riders also have really cool flanking manoeuvres rule, which is pretty cool. So essentially, instead of deploying them normally, all of them can all show up within 6 inches of any battlefield edge, as long as they're all on the same battlefield edge, which is pretty tasty when a load of Death Riders come up 9 inches away ready to charge and take out some non-believers. So yeah, really like the Death Riders. Carnodon is the 30k kind of proto Land Raider, I guess. So yeah, good to see rules for these, and again a lot of the models that were previously kind of aimed at 30k now have rules for 40k, which is really good to see. And again, they're not restricted to any Astra Militarum regiment. You can take them any Krieg, Cadians, wherever you want to take them. And again, that applies to all this stuff outside of really the Death Korps of Krieg specific stuff. Cyclops demolition vehicle, still really tasty. Essentially, you blow it up and do a absolute load of wounds to something. So yeah, heavy 2d6, strength 9, AP -2, D3 and blast. Drive one of those into, you know, a tough infantry squad, and yeah, watch them burn. I really like the Cyclops. It's a nice, cute little model, and yeah, looking forward to trying some of these out. Heavy mortar battery again has had a bit of a refresh as well. So previously it had a random damage characteristic. It now does damage 2. They've also merged the unit together. So previously we had a weird rule where it was essentially a squad of guardsmen and a squad of mortars who operated independently but had to be within 3 inches of each other. It was all a bit weird. Where now essentially it's just one unit. The guardsmen themselves are just for window dressing. They can't be targeted. It is all against the profile of the heavy mortar. So toughness 6, 7 wounds, I think that is the same or very similar to how they were. So arguably you lose some bodies, but you know, those guardsmen weren't doing anything when the mortar was there anyway. And it does mean that people can't target your crew members in order to take out the guns, which is always a little bit frustrating because, you know, a toughness 6, 7 wound model is a bit tougher to kill than a toughness 3 guardsman armed with a flashlight. So yeah, as a Krieg player, I have a lot of heavy mortars and pretty happy with the new profile for these. AP -1, I want to say they were AP -2 before, that might be the same. But yeah, really good for targeting things out of line of sight, which is a big thing in the new edition of the game. Those units hiding behind another side of a building, yeah, you don't care, you just fire heavy mortars at them. We've got a few Armageddon pattern variants of the tanks. Nothing massively different about them, just a few tweaks here or there. We then have the Malcador variant tanks as a heavy choice. I want to say they were a Lord of War at some point back in the day, but yeah, good to see those as a heavy choice. And yeah, some really nice variant tanks to have for your armies. Earthshaker carriage battery, similar to the heavy mortar batteries, the crew has kind of been merged together into the same profile. So essentially it is an immobile Earthshaker cannon battery, so you get a bit of a points discount on the fact that you haven't got a tank lugging it around, and let's face it, it looks really, really cool. So yeah, and obviously if it's a Death Korps of Krieg one, when it's destroyed on a 4+, it gets to shoot as well, which is pretty cool. Heavy quad launcher, it's very similar profile to how it was, again just takes some of the changes like we've mentioned for crew. So next we've got the Colossus Bombard. This has had a bit of a change compared to the old one. Previously it was heavy 2d6, now it is heavy 3d3. So I think on average it's more likely to get more shots, but you can't get the 12 shots obviously you had on the old variant, so bit of a compromise there. I think you're more likely to get a better volume of shots with that. I haven't done the maths back, by the way, on this one, but I think on average you should be more likely to get those the average shots on this. It's less spiky, which I think is one of the problems with it. If you rolled really low, you'd be unlucky. Obviously it's got the blast rules as well, so if you are shooting large targets, you're going to get a lot more shots with it as well. The Malcador Infernus is back as a heavy choice. This is really, really cool. Strength 7, heavy 3d6 flamer basically with damage 2, so you can toast some Primaris Marines with that thing, so gonna have to get one of them for my Krieg as well because it's pretty cool. Again, the Medusa carriage battery, in the same way as the Earthshaker one, you can have the siege cannon on there as well, which is pretty cool. And then we've got some old returning stuff like the Rapier laser destroyers and Thunderers, Valdors, the various aircraft that we can take. Yeah, lots and lots of options, and it's good to see a lot of love given to these old Forge World kits. Trojan support vehicle has changed a little. I believe it used to give +1 to hit to nearby units. Instead now it can repair a friendly regiment vehicle. You can also make a vehicle that's got a one-shot weapon fire again. So, with this, potentially, you could have a Death Strike missile firing twice, which is pretty cool. I know the Death Strike is a bit of a meme at the minute, but you never know. It might get a bit of a rules buff in the new Astra Militarum book. And to be fair, being able to fire a Death Strike twice is pretty good. So I'm actually tempted to get one of these and some Death Strikes, because in the past my Krieg haven't been able to take any, and I think they'd really appreciate a giant intercontinental ballistic missile launcher. Hades Breaching Drill is a transport that can be taken by veterans and combat engineers, which is really, really cool. It is still an absolute beast in combat, and I know the combat engineers can kind of deploy anywhere on the battlefield 9 inches away, but it lets the veterans do the same as well, and essentially they'll both drill up and appear together. So yeah, nice potential to get some more breaching drills in your army, because that's pretty cool. We have all the Macarius variants, which are pretty cool. The Praetor, which is an absolutely gorgeous model. It's a Lord of War. That faux hammer Praetor launcher looks absolutely bananas. Yeah, I want to get one of these. The more artillery I can throw into a Krieg army, the better. So yeah, really looking forward to that. And again, a lot of the other kind of variant tanks and stuff that we've seen over the years. Some of the heavy bombers are now Lords of War as well, which is interesting. So yeah, if you want to have a flyer heavy army, you might be able to stick quite a few flyers in using them. And then the Stormblade and the Tarantula is now a vehicle, a building, interestingly. So you can take a kind of fortification detachment and take some of them. So yeah, pretty cool. So yeah, a lot of Astra Militarum stuff in here. I think that is probably the bulk of the book. And I know a lot of Guard players and certainly Death Korps of Krieg players will be picking it up because of this. Yes, it's sad to see a lot of the Krieg units go, but I'm really excited to be able to use a lot of these other units that I've never been able to use before. Moving on to the Inquisition, we get a couple of profiles that we've seen in previous Imperial Armour books. So yeah, a little bit of Inquisition representation that I'm sure Dave will appreciate. The Custodians obviously have got a lot of Forge World kits as well, so again in our review we probably have a separate standout Custodian section where we go through all these. Not expecting massive changes to what we saw previously. I imagine there's probably been some tweaks here or there, potentially to bring them in line with some of the weapons changes we've seen in the Space Marine book as well. But yeah, lots of love for the Custodians in this book, with yeah, every Forge World model represented from them. And yeah, all the points as well. Again, in our full roundup I'll have a look to see if any of those points profiles have changed. Like I say though, I'm not expecting massive changes for the Custodians in this book. Onto the Adeptus Mechanicus, and we have the Secutary. So these are the Titan Guard, and interestingly they can take the Titan Legion keyword. So I do have some Titan Guard to protect my Legio Ignatum. So yeah, may have to use these in the game. It's a shame they haven't got the troops battlefield role. So yeah, and they can take the Terax Pass and Termite as a transport as well. And yeah, points for those guys. Again, I don't know if there's been massive changes to the previous points that we've seen. Imperial Knights, obviously we've got a big Knights range from Forge World. And yeah, we have got lots and lots of Knights with profiles. And a lot of people were disappointed in the Porphyrion, for example. So yeah, it'll be good to have a proper look through here and see what big changes we have for some of these Knights. I've been really tempted to pick up some of the Forge World Knights because they're they're pretty cool. They look ace. And yeah, it's all about rule cool. They are quite expensive, but you'd expect that for a knight. Obviously we've got the smaller ones as well, which is cool to see. They've got some pretty cool variant weapons that they have. And then we've got the Praetorian at a cracking 40 power level. Or where is he on here? The Praetorian 780 points before upgrades. So yeah, big chunk of an army, but is takeable in an army. I've got a feeling he was quite a bit more expensive than that in the past. So yeah, good to see it's usable now. We then get the Titan Legions, and they now have a Titan Legions keyword. There's no rules that key off those Titan Legion keywords yet, but you never know. We might see something in the future, a supplement maybe at some point. Who knows? But yeah, these have all been changed quite a lot as well. So the Warhound with 50 wounds, it has void shields. Each void shield has 3 shield points, and as it starts taking damage, those shield points drop. As a void shield takes the 3rd point of damage, it's destroyed. If it is not destroyed in the command phase, any shield with less than 3 shield points goes back up to full. So these shields will keep replenishing every turn, which is a really cool mechanic. You can't do any damage to the Titan itself until those void shields are depleted. From ranged attack, sorry. So yeah, you can punch it in close combat. It's only toughness 8, so nothing ridiculous. So, you know, lads kind of stuff can hurt it now, but it's got a lot of wounds. So I was hoping that they'd be cheap enough to use alongside an army. That the Warhound is the cheapest at 2,000 points. Would be interesting to see how a Warhound does against an army, because I've got a feeling the army would probably do enough damage to take out the Warhound. But yeah, for big apocalypse games, you've got options. I mean, if you want to go all out and have like a 20,000 point game with a load of Titans, then by all means, you'll probably struggle to fit it on the board. But yeah, really cool to see these given some love. And obviously with all the variants of Titans that we've got over the years, I've got a Reaver and a Warhound myself, so I think when COVID restrictions allow, I think we'll try a game to see how a Titan gets on against a normal army, and vice versa. You know, are Titans going to be too tough for a normal army to take out? So be quite interesting to see how they perform on the tabletop. And obviously we've got the Big Daddy, the Warlord Titan as well. Each of the Titans has that Void Shields rules, but the number of Void Shields they have increases as the scale of the Titan goes up. And yeah, there's some absolutely bananas weapons in here. Like the Bellicose Volcano Cannon, heavy 3d3, strength 20, AP -5, 12 damage. Yeah, there's not a lot that's going to survive a shot from that. And it's got blast if you really want to shoot that at a big infantry squad if you're mental. So yeah, really cool. Really looking forward to seeing how the Titans go on. And again, like we said, we've got some points there. They are on the expensive side, but yeah, I quite like what I've seen of these new Titan rules. So then we get onto the Forces of Chaos, and yeah, we get some cool stuff. We get some things that we're seeing in the Space Marine book, such as Smokescreen, with a stratagem to activate it. So that's quite interesting, and I do wonder if the kind of proper 9th edition Chaos Space Marine book is not too far behind this book. So yeah, again, a lot of this is going to be Chaos variants of the vehicles that we've seen in the first part of the book, but we do have some, like the Decimator, some Chaos specific units. All of the kind of little demon engines that we've seen, such as the Blood Slaughterer, is still in the book as well. I know some people were worried about things like that being discontinued. It is a fast attack choice as well, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of these Forge World units pop up in armies, because hopefully they're a lot more usable now, and certainly the rules are easier to get hold of if they're all in this one big tome. Interestingly, Chaos units can take the Termite as well, so lots of people have love with these siege draws, which is really good. And again, a lot of this is just Chaos variants of those old Marine models, which makes sense. The Greater Brass Scorpion's still in there. I think that is still available. I do want to pick up one of those at some time because it is a really nice kit. And yeah, as you'd imagine, all the various bits and bobs that you would expect in a Chaos army, including Chaos Mastodon and Thunderhawk as well. Then with Charybdis Assault Claw, again, really cool model from 30k era. Is a Lord of War choice, but yeah, it's pretty cool. And again, points values for all the Chaos Space Marine stuff. Going on to the Death Guard, they just get one, but it's a Death Guard keyworded Greater Blight Drone, which is really cool because it means that any stratagems or abilities that key off the Death Guard keyword means they can take it, which is really cool. So yeah, I know Dave loves his Death Guard, so I'm sure he'd be tempted to get a Greater Blight Drone in there. Then we get on to Chaos Demons. I, again, have a big demon army, and a lot of the big Forge World Exalted Greater Demons have always traditionally been quite expensive for what they do. Yeah, we see some revisions here. So we've got a couple of characters. Interestingly, we've got no Samus. So yeah, I thought we might get, if not the Samus, a profile represented by the Samus model maybe. Callback to Splice in there though, which is cool. And then yeah, we get each of the Exalted Greater Demons, who look pretty cool as they always did. Interestingly, and I don't know if this is an error in printing, but Angarath is the most expensive from a power point of view. But when we look at the points values, it's the Tzeentch demon that I'm not even going to try and pronounce is more expensive. So yeah, that's quite interesting. I am very glad they've moved away from the pointing them in line with their god number. I think it's going to be a lot more manageable to fit these Exalted Demons in an army now, which is really cool. I think Scabiathrax was quite expensive in the past for what he actually did. So 475, he's pretty good. Same with Zara Kennel. She's pretty tasty now as well. So yeah, I'm excited to be able to take some of these big demons in my demon armies. So yeah, look forward to doing that. We then have Chaos Knights, again similar to the Knight models. They use a lot of the chassis of the standard Knights available to the Imperium. They just get the associated Chaos keywords, which is cool. So yeah, you can pretty much take whatever Knight you want as a Chaos version, which is really, really cool. And yeah, again, that's another one on the wish list, making a bit of a Chaos Knight army, because I think that'd be really fun. Likewise, we also have the Chaos variants of the Titans. As far as I can see, exact same profiles that they've got, just again with the associated Chaos and Heretic Titan Legion keywords. Same points across the board as well, so good to see both sides can take the same Titans and Knights, which is cool. And finally we get to the Xenos forces. So starting with the Eldar, they again have lost a couple of units, but again it's really stuff that they don't sell anymore. I know the Corsairs aren't here anymore, I don't know if they're still available on the site or not. But yeah, like I say, during the week what we'll probably do is have some posts for each armies, and maybe even a video for each army as well, kind of calling out some of the big changes. Yeah, unfortunately due to time dilations of the warp, not had quite as long with this as we normally would do, but yeah, wanted to show off all the pages and make sure you guys get to see it. So again, the Eldar Titans are in here as well. It's yeah, similar points costs to the Imperium versions. We did do, and I'll link it in if I can find it, a video a while ago where we pitted Titan versus Titan, and yeah, it was a little bit one-sided. So it'd be interesting to repeat that battle report, but with these new rules, because I have a feeling, yeah, it might be a little bit fairer now. Again, all the points cost for the Eldar. We then go on to the Drukhari. Good to see the Tantalus is still in here. It's a pretty old kit now, but it is still absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, glad that these guys have still got their units called out in this book. Then we go on to the Necrons. Obviously the Necrons have had a lot of love, being one of the first 2 codexes out of the gates in the new edition of the game. And yeah, pretty much, apart from old stuff that's disappeared, we've got all the Necron rules in here. Quite a lot of them had a few changes compared to the previous versions of the rules they've had. Quite a few points adjustments too. Tesseract Arc, similar profile to as it usually had, which is pretty cool. Obviously, a lot of the quantum shielding rules and living metal have adjusted a little bit compared to how they were in the past. But yeah, Tesseract Arc still looks really good. Night Shroud, if I'm honest, I'm a little bit disappointed the Death Sphere is still once per battle. It, you know, it's got the potential of doing up to 12 mortal wounds. That's only once per game, compared to the Adeptus Mechanicus bomber that can do its bombing run every turn. It's a little bit of a shame it's once per game, but I think it has a little bit of a point discount compared to what it was in the points guide at the start of the edition. Pylons are still in there, as is the big super heavy doohickey, which is a really nice model. And again, the smaller sentry pylons are in there as well, as a fortification slot, which is interesting as well. So being able to throw some of them in your army could be pretty good as well. And again, we've got points values for those guys. The construct isn't bad, it's 650 points, so yeah, quite like that. As are the pylons, I think they could be quite handy. Okay, so on to the Orcs. We have a few oldies returning, such as the War Boss on Warbike. I believe that was a named character at some point, but the model's still available, so yeah, good to see that if you're doing a Court of Speed or something. It's pretty cool. And Mech Boss Buzzgob. A lot of these Forge World Orc models are really, really nice, so good to see them still existing. Such as the Grot Tanks, which I absolutely love, and on my to-do list is a Rebel Grot army, which would cram in as many of these as I can, because yeah, I think that would be pretty fun. Knobs on Warbikes, again, still have a profile that exists, as does the Mega Dread. Again, a lot of these are older models, but they still exist in here. The Squiggoth still in there as well. Nice chunky model, as is the Mega Squiggoth. He's later on in the book. And then yeah, a lot of these variant kind of tracks and vehicles that the Orcs have got still exist in the book as well. Gargantuan Squiggoth there. Again, 36 wounds, so quite a lot to chew through, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so good to see a good representation of lots of different models, including the Custom Stomper, which is like an upgrade kit available on Forge World. So yeah, really cool to see him. I think he was a HQ choice at some point, so I think it's lost that. But yeah, really cool. And the endpoints revisions for all those. And then we have the Tau. Again, the Tau, I think they've had a handful of kits that they haven't got anymore, but a lot of the battle suits and stuff, the variant battle suits still exist. So the XV9 hazard suits are gorgeous kits, so good to see them still exist. And the Ravana, which gives me nightmares, or used to. Yeah. They're pretty cool. The Tetras are a really old kit as well, so yeah, good to see a lot of these still exist. I think they've got off pretty lightly compared to some of the armies like the Krieg. Yeah, all these gorgeous flyers like the Tiger Shark and the Manta still exist in there as well. So yeah, really cool to see those included in the book. And the Supremacy suit is now 1,000 points. So that has gone up quite a lot. I think it was about 900 points and looked as good as a Titan. So obviously with the adjustments in the wounds and the weapons and stuff, yeah, it's still takeable in an army, but hopefully this book should bring a lot of that stuff in line, which is really cool. We then get the Tyranids. I think these have had a handful of rules disappear. But yeah, like I say, all the current stuff still exists, so we can take the die marker on, which is a really cool like giant lictor thing, which is ace. And then obviously we've got all the various heavy creatures and super heavy creatures, like the Hierophant and the Harridan. So yeah, some really cool stuff. And yeah, the points values for them. So that is a quick overview of all the stuff inside the Imperial Armour Compendium. Like I say, we're going to have a bit of a full analysis over on the website where we're going to go through some of the rules changes and the points changes and all the stuff that's adjusted in this book. So yeah, massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us a copy of this a little bit early so we could take a look at it as well. It is currently available for pre-order on the Forge World website at £40, I believe, which isn't bad for a big hardback book containing the rules for every Forge World model. So yeah, really like the look of that. Really looking forward to digging my Death Korps of Krieg out, getting them on the battlefield and trying out these new rules. We also have reviews for Codex Supplement Space Wolves and Codex Supplement Death Watch up today, so make sure to check them out. And again, there will be full write-ups of both of those books over on the website too. So until next time, we will see you later.